Yes. So, thanks for attending my session, guys. So first of all, I just want to ask you, like, how many of you didn't attend yesterday's session? So can you just comment, like, how many of you didn't attend yesterday's session, or how many of you new to ROS? So that is the first thing I just want to know. So you can just comment if you are a beginner. I mean, if you don't heard about ROS framework, or if you didn't attend yesterday's session, you can just comment in the chat box. So that will help me to uh, I mean, discuss the things accordingly. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. So I think, okay. Um, okay. 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 No, no problem. No problem. I think, yes, that's perfectly fine. Okay. So I think maybe I can give you a short idea of the things that I have discussed in yesterday's session. Okay. Then the today's session is an extension of yesterday's session. Okay, so don't worry. We will go through some of the important aspects of the last session, and then we will come to this to the actual topic. Okay, so about me, Benson already given an introduction about me. Okay, so I'm actually working in this domain for 11 years, and I'm very, very passionate in working with robots and programming robots and working with ROS framework. Okay, and I started working in 2010 actually during my bachelor's, and after that I got interested in this framework and robotics, obviously. Then I started writing blogs, then started creating YouTube videos. Then after my bachelor's, I got into a robotics startup, okay, called Asimo Robotics, and I worked there, and I worked with ROS also in Asimo Robotics. Then in 2014 I started my own company. It's called Cubotics Labs, mainly for robotics development and robotics education. Okay, so this is my main business, and and I have a blog called Robo Academy. It's in a very initial stage, and the objective is like creating tutorials, then organizing courses in rows. Okay, online courses, live courses. Yeah, so regarding my experience from 2014, I started my company, and I have done masters during that. Then I worked in CMU. I mean, all are happening in parallel. And and in 2019, I think I got an opportunity to talk in TEDx about my experience, how I created an passion in robotics. Okay, yes. So yeah, so that's about me, and I just want to show you my books. Almost all the books are, I mean, all the books are related to ROS. Okay, so from robot operating system for absolute beginners, then ROS robotics project, and the latest book is Mastering ROS for Robotics Programming, third edition. Okay, and these are some of the books I have reviewed. I mean, there are actually more than 10, but I just included 3. Yes. So today's objective, or the objective of the session, is to give an idea about the last session. Okay. Then we will go to the actual topic, that is autonomous navigation using ROS. Okay. So in the last session, what we have discussing was like, we just started with what is robotics, or what is a robot basically. Okay. So basically a robot is having 3 components: sense, think, and act, like human being. We have sensors, then we have brain, and we have joints, right? So similar to that, robots also have sensors, then computers as the brain, and then actuators as I mean, for the movement. Okay, so this is where we started. Okay, this is for absolute beginners, I will say. Then I have shown some, I mean, very basic example for the sense, think, and act loop using an obstacle avoidance robot. Okay, then we have discussed various components of a robot. Okay, so these are not like very deep topics. Okay, very it's for like designed for absolute beginners. Okay, I didn't discuss any max or something that need more time. And yeah, so this is very, very basic idea. Okay. And these are some of the components like actuators, sensors, and computers. Okay. And I will say in human, the main differentiating factor is I will say the most differentiating factor is our intelligence, right? I mean, how we, I mean, yeah, how the intelligence actually differentiating. We all having maybe same brain, capacity or something, but how we use it, that makes the difference, right? Maybe like those who have same IQ or something, they may be using the IQ better than us. Okay. So so that's actually making us different, right? So in robotics or in robot, that is actually the differentiating factor. Like, what is the program that is running on the robot that makes it intelligent? Okay. So like if you run a basic program in one of the complex robot, it will only work very in a very basic format. But if we just put a complex or very intelligent software in a complex robot, it will work intelligently. Okay. So the main stuff in robots is in the software. That's what I'm saying. And very important part of I'm not saying other things are not important. Other things are important, but I will say the most important part is in the software. Okay, so that's what we were discussing. And then we have seen what is a robot programming. Basically, like it's a modeling the behavior of the robot, how the robot behave. Okay, so that is basically the robot programming. And we can like take some existing framework to program the robot, or we can like write everything from scratch. Okay, and this was the robot development cycle that I have drawn, like in order to create a robot, any robot. Okay, it will be better to follow these procedures, like collecting the requirement. It's like developing a software, like collecting the requirements, then designing it, design the entire parameters of the robot, like choosing the right sensor, actuators, and everything. Then after that, we will do the 3D modeling. Then we will do the simulation. Then in the simulation, when you do the simulation, we will get the behavior of the robot in a software, in a simulator software. Okay, so using that, we can iterate our design. That is the main purpose of simulator. Okay, then also we can develop software for the robot using simulation. Then after that, we will prototype it, the hardware. Okay, we will connect all the sensors and actuators, then assemble it, testing it, then deploying it. Okay, after deploying, we can use the same software that we can design, that we have used in the simulation. Okay, for the actual robot. Okay, so in the robot development cycle, we are using ROS. Okay, ROS is actually a software tool. Okay, software tool for robots, for programming robots. Okay, so if we use ROS in the robot development cycle, okay, so these are the areas that we can use it. Like we can use it for simulating the robot. We can use it for developing software application for the robot. And we can also use to build basic 3D model of the robot. Okay, so these are the main areas that we are using ROS in the robot development cycle. Okay, and then we have started, we have just gone through the like simple robot and then complex robot. Okay, like in simple robot, we don't need to use any complex computers, high-end computers or something. Maybe you can use a microcontroller to program this. But in case of a complex robot, it's different, right? You have to put a full-fledged computer and you can install an operating system on it. And then we have to program. We have to write programs using C++ or Python in that operating system, right? So that's how we are programming complex robots. So then we just started with ROS. Okay, and also we have seen what are the different operating systems that we are using in robots, mainly Linux-based. Okay, and I mentioned that ROS is for programming robots. It's a software framework or software tool to create applications for robots. Okay, then we have started with ROS. Then I have shown my bachelor's project. This is how I started with robotics. It's a social robot, but I didn't use ROS at that time. I was not aware. It was happening in 2010 actually. But I implemented a similar setup. I mean, kind of message passing interface using server and client. So that is actually where we use ROS for communication. That I will discuss. Yeah. So this was a start. Then I have also shown a project that is using ROS. Okay, that is working using ROS. Yes. Then we have started with ROS. Okay, so ROS, I think you may have some confusion, like it stands for Robot Operating System, right? So you may be thinking like it's a real operating system. Basically, it's not a real operating system. We are calling it as a meta operating system. There are many definitions for ROS. We can call it as a meta operating system. It's a software tool. It's a software framework. It's a communication middleware. All these definition is suitable for ROS. Okay, and I have shown the official website of ROS. So this is a new website of ROS. So you can have a look onto this website. It's actually a new website. So I will be like addressing your comments after some time. Okay. So you can just keep on commenting. So I will go through all of your comments. Okay. So there is a basic video embedded in the website. Okay. This is a website. And so what is ROS is the next thing that we are going to discuss. It's actually a tool, and we can install this tool on our operating system. Okay, so basically it is fully supported with Ubuntu Linux. Okay, but you can also install it on Windows or a Mac or anything. Okay, so basically like if I'm working from Windows, I will use a virtualization software like VMware or VirtualBox, in which you can install Ubuntu on it. Then you can install ROS on it. Okay, so you need a host operating system to install ROS. Okay, it's like installing another software on your computer. Okay, it's very similar to that. And these are the installation procedure for ROS. It's actually mentioned in the ROS website. Maybe I can give the link. Just a sec. Okay. Okay. So this is the installation procedure to install ROS on Ubuntu. Okay. So basically, you have to just copy paste the commands. So just go to the getting started, then ROS Neutic, which is the latest ROS 1 distribution. ROS 1, there is ROS 1 and ROS 2. Okay, so these are some of the commands that you have to copy into Ubuntu. Okay, so I think before starting with ROS, it will be better to know these prerequisites. Okay, because mostly in robots we are using Linux-based distributions like Ubuntu. So it will be better to have Linux knowledge and basic programming knowledge like C++ or Python, and also Git for version control. So these are the prerequisites. Okay, then only we can install, or I mean, then only we can start with ROS. You can install it, and yeah, so that's how we can start. Okay. Then we have discussed the basic of ROS. Okay. So from here, we will switch into our today's topic. Okay. So ROS is basically having 4 main parts. So one is the plumbing, second is tools and capabilities and ecosystem. So you will obviously have confusion, right? So I can explain these things, and today's topic is actually one of the topic from the capabilities. Okay, so we can just check what is these four things. Okay, so first we can check what is plumbing. Okay, so I just want to ask you a question. How many of you created a robot using using a Raspberry Pi, or with a laptop? Okay, a robot which is having a computer like Raspberry Pi or a laptop or anything. Okay, how many of you? Okay, with Raspberry Pi you have that. Okay, great. Anyone? Okay, yes, some of you create. Yes, good. Yes. Okay, that's great. That's actually great. I didn't expect this much of people. Okay, so some of you done created robots using Arduino. That's also good. Yeah. Yes. So if you already build a robot using with Raspberry Pi or your laptop or anything, okay, or some of you already work with ROS. Okay, that's great. So basically, you have to write some programs, right? You have to write some programs in Python or C++, right? Then when you run that program, the robot will work. Okay. So mostly you may have used or you may have written one program mostly. Okay. One program for running the robot or working with the robot, right? But what if we have more sensors and more actuators and more functionalities? Okay, like you are going to create a robot which is having more sensors, multiple sensors, yeah, multiple actuators and multiple features to implement. Okay, so in that scenario, we can't write everything on a single program. It's actually very difficult. Like imagine you are writing a Python program or C program or C++ program, and you are reading the sensor data from camera, LiDAR, encoder, or multiple sensor. Okay. Then you are processing it. Okay. You are processing it. And then you are like sending these control signals to motors or actuators. Okay. So is that a good practice to write a single program to do all this stuff? No, right? Obviously no, because like it will be like very, very unstable, right? A lot of things are, I mean, you can use like the things like threading or something, but I will say if we add a lot of threads, then it's very difficult to debug. Okay. Yeah. So as Siddharth mentioned, the program should be modular. Okay. Uh, so, uh, so that's why we are going with ROS. Okay. So if we are using ROS, okay, we can write modular code. For example, if you have a camera, okay, then you can write a program to handle the camera. Okay. To handle the camera means to read the images from the camera. Okay. So from you can see in the diagram. So if you have a LiDAR or laser scan, you can write another program to handle that LiDAR. Okay, similar to that encoder or any sensors. Okay, so our approach is that we are writing independent programs for handling different sensors and actuators. Okay, but there is a problem. There is a problem. Can anyone say, like, if we write multiple programs which is handling these sensors and actuators, what should be, I mean, what will be the problem happen? I mean, these all are independent programs. Okay. But finally, like using the sensor data, we have to like process it and we have to send into the actuators, right? So what will be the problem? Like if we write independent program or modular program, what will be the problem? Synchronization, okay. The processing capabilities, not real time. access same hardware at same time would be an issue. But here, as JD mentioned, we are only using, only one program is only handling one device at a time. Okay, so that issue will not be there. Then synchronization is a problem, like multiple programs are running together, right? So we have to synchronize in some way. Then sequence of running program, then parallel data processing from multiple sensor will not be possible. Okay, yes. So there are many things, right? There are many things that you need to figure out. Okay. So if you have multiple programs running on your computer or robot computer, did you think like there should be some communication between these programs, right? There should be some communication because it's not an independent program actually. For robots, if we read the data from camera, okay, then the image should be processed and it will come up with some data, maybe some output like face detection or like color detection, right? So it will come up with these, and then that information is going to some other program. Okay, some other program will need that data in order to move the robot or in order to control the robot. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that if we are trying to write multiple program, one of the bottleneck is that there should be some way to synchronize. There should be some way to, communicate all these nodes. Okay, communication means, for example, the camera driver is sending some data to navigation node here. Okay, so navigation node is receiving data from camera driver, lidar driver, encoder driver, and motor controller node is receiving data from navigation node. Okay, navigation node is sending data to motor controller node. Okay, so this communication is very important in a complex robot. Complex robot, what I'm mentioning is that like a robot with multiple sensors and which is having a lot of capabilities. Okay, so that's where ROS comes in. Okay, that's where ROS comes in. So what is the purpose of ROS? How ROS fulfills this need? Actually, I mentioned that ROS is a software framework, right? So ROS actually provides us with some functionalities or APIs. Okay, so these APIs you can use in your program. Okay, if you are writing a Python program or C++ program or any programming language, most of the programming languages are supported by ROS. So you can use these ROS APIs. Okay, and then this inter-process communication will be easier. Okay, so the terminology that I'm using, like communication between different programs in OS is inter-process communication. That is communication between different programs. Okay, so ROS actually filling the gap of this thing. Okay, this communication, inter-process communication. So ROS basically gives us APIs which can be used to send and also receive data from different nodes or programs. Okay, the running instance of a program is called process. So basically, these processes are communicating with each other, okay, and exchanging data and fulfilling a task. Okay, so this is the foundation of ROS. Okay, so based on this inter-process communication or this message passing framework, we can build a lot of stuff. We can build a lot of interesting things, right? For example, if you want to implement a navigation or autonomous navigation. Autonomous navigation simply means moving from A to B, okay, A to B without any manual intervention. Okay, so if we want to implement that kind of feature, we can write several programs. Okay, we can write several programs. Maybe one program may be doing like collecting data from the sensor. One program may be like receiving that data from that and then doing some processing, then doing some path planning, then mapping, the lot of things. Okay, so a collective work is happening if we are using ROS. Like using ROS, we can write several nodes which can work collectively in order to fulfill an operation. Okay, so the plumbing that is mentioning here is the inter-process communication, which is the heart of ROS. Okay, which is the main part of ROS. Okay, so using this inter-process communication, okay, so if we are writing several program and if they are communicating with each other, can you guess what this structure? Like I can say these things are independent programs, okay, independent process or nodes, okay, and these are communicating with each other. That's what these arrows indicate. Okay, so can anyone say what this structure? So if multiple programs in the robot computer are communicating with each other, what structure it actually forms internally? What is this structure? Anyone? Can anyone say what is this structure? Yes. Yeah. So like first comment, I think, yes, Miss, yeah. So basically it's a graph. It's a graph, guys. Like there are nodes and connections. So it's a graph. Okay. So yes, the computation graph. Okay. The title itself is showing like it's a computational graph, meaning multiple programs are doing some computation. Okay. Multiple nodes are working parallelly and doing some computation, and they are communicating with each other. And then internally, it's actually forming a graph of nodes. Okay. And collectively, they can work and accomplish a task. Okay. It's actually a very interesting concept, actually. Okay. Like, I'm not sure you heard about swarm robotics. It's again an interesting thing. So swarm robotics means a group of or collective of robots are doing a difficult task. Okay, so instead of one robot, a group of robots are doing it in order to simplify it. I mean, the task can be fulfilled very easily. Okay, like that, if we are using ROS, we can write multiple nodes. It can be 100 or 200, any number of nodes. Okay, any number of nodes, and which can able to communicate and accomplish a big task. Okay, and the code will be modular. Sorry for that. Yeah, code will be modular. Okay, and it's very easy to debug as well. Okay, so this was the important concept that we have discussed, and there are some more things, but because of the lack of time, we have to jump into the main topic. Okay, that is the capabilities. Okay, so in order to debug and visualize the data passing between nodes, we have tools. Okay, we have tools to visualize these data. Like one node is sending data to another. Okay, and using these tools available in ROS, we can just visualize these data. Okay, and debug how the computational graph look like, and is there any problem with the computation graph. Okay, then the third thing is the capabilities. Okay, and fourth thing is ecosystem means there is a great a big community around this framework. There are a lot of open source robotics guys are there to develop a code. This is an open source framework. ROS is an open source and free as well. Okay, you can use it for research and product. Okay, so there is a big community around it. Okay, and one of the main reasons why people choose ROS is because of the capabilities. Okay, capabilities. So what is capabilities? Okay, so that is what I'm planning to focus in this session. Okay, capabilities are like, we already seen that we can write multiple nodes to accomplish a big task, right? So the capabilities are like some big task, okay, which are accomplished by some existing nodes written by some people already. Okay, so there are some existing programs there. Okay, we can simply take this. Okay, we can simply take that program, okay, and some fine tuning it, then we can do a big task. Okay, so if you have confusion, I can just show you different capabilities of ROS. Okay, so this is the main reason why people are like thinking of taking ROS for their project. Okay, for example, if you want to implement an autonomous navigation in robots. Autonomous navigation, I already explained, going from A to B without any manual intervention. It can avoid obstacle automatically like this. Okay, you can see this video, right? Yesterday, I have shown this video. Okay, so this is the topic for today. Like we are planning to discuss about it. Okay, this is a very important, and popular topic in ROS. Okay, and a lot of people, including me, I'm mainly interested in navigation. Navigation algorithms in robotics. So I am very, very passionate in working with these kind of thing. Okay, so basically using ROS, okay, using ROS capabilities, you don't need to write any code. Okay, any code. You can simply take the existing set of programs, okay, or packages. Packages is a word that we are using in ROS. It's a collection of some programs, okay, and a collection of packages is called stack. Okay, so navigation, in ROS there is a thing called navigation stack. Okay, navigation stack. So navigation stack means there is a collection of ROS packages, and these collection of packages helps the robot to do the autonomous navigation without much programming. Okay, it's all about like simply fine tuning the parameters, and you can do this kind of project. Okay, both in simulation and in the real robot. Okay, so this is the topic for today. Okay, so this is one of the very popular capability in ROS. Okay, and other capabilities are manipulation, pick and place. Okay, taking an object from one place to another. Okay, so this is another capabilities of ROS. You can easily implement pick and place routines. Okay, like if you heard about the inverse kinematics, then forward kinematics, motion planning, all these stuffs are there in ROS in the form of packages. Okay, you can simply take that, then configure it. Okay, it's not programming, it's configuring, like simply adjusting the parameters, and then it's ready to go. So you are seeing a real robot demo. Okay, you can work with simulation and also real robot. Okay, the third capabilities is the perception. Okay, I think you heard about the self-driving car. Okay, it's a robotic car. It's a robot actually. Okay, so there is a sensor on the top of the car. Okay, it's called a LiDAR. Okay, 3D LiDAR. So this demo is actually like it's a mapping demo using a self-driving car LiDAR data. Okay, so these kind of mapping and navigation, all this stuff can be implemented in your robot without much programming. I will say without no programming. Okay, so this is one of the attractive feature in ROS. Okay, existing code, so you can just reuse it. Okay, like this, there are many packages available in ROS. You can simply reuse the code. Okay, so let's dive into ROS navigation. Okay, ROS navigation. So I'm just switching to some web-based tutorial now. Okay, I can give you a link first. Okay, I'm using the ROS website link. Okay, so you can also follow. Okay, please take that link. Okay, I have put a link on the chat box. Okay, this is that link. You can just take that, and this is the uh, wiki page of the navigation stack that I mentioned. Okay, navigation stack. So what is stack? It's a collection of packages. Okay, here navigation stack. So a collection of packages in order to do the autonomous navigation. Okay, so what navigation stack is a collection of packages in ROS so that we can simply take and customize for our robot. Okay, you can just see a comic here. The objective of this set of packages mainly going from A to B. Okay, if there is an obstacle or if there is anything like it can avoid, I mean, using navigation stack, we can avoid, the robot can avoid by using its sensors and all. Okay, and then it can reach the goal. Okay, there is an interesting video, by the way. It is attached to the same page, which is the official video of navigation stack. It's somewhat old, but still relevant. You can see some of the things from the navigation stack, like using navigation stack, you can take the data from the LiDAR or laser scan. So this robot is called PR2. This is one of the old robot. Okay. And actually, you can see a lot of demos using PR2 and ROS in YouTube. Okay. So here the robot is moving based on the navigation stack. Okay. I'm just showing a demo first, then I will explain what navigation stack is. Okay, so here you can see the robot is actually like, this is a visualization. Okay, this is a visualization, and you can see on the bottom there is a map, right? There is a map. Okay, and you can also see a LiDAR. Okay, a LiDAR, actually you have seen in the chest there is a LiDAR. It's moving like this, right? So when the robot moves, you can see there is a red arrow here, right? That is the goal position that they have given. Okay, so the robot is actually planning a path. Okay, and it's actually like avoiding these walls and all and reaching, and this is an obstacle avoidance. Okay, this feature is an obstacle avoidance. It's actually detected an obstacle, then immediately it stopped, then it's actually rotated because it's just confused what happened. Then after that, it's took a new position, a new route. Okay, so these are some interesting. There are many projects related to navigation in web. Okay, in YouTube also you can find many videos. So these are some of the primitive video, but still it's good actually. So here you can see the robot is moving, and it's also creating a 3D 3D map, and also it's like it's actually moving and also it's building a map. Okay, so kind of exploration. Okay, so that also can be do using navigation stack. Okay, so anything using navigation, related to navigation, can be accomplished using this set of packages called navigation stack. Okay, and basically the ROS navigation stack is designed for 2D. Okay, 2D means like in a plane, but we can like fine tune it. We can tweak it for 3D as well. For like aerial drones, drones and all, we can use navigation stack with some tweaking. Okay, so this is a demo of navigation stack. Okay, and then you can take this link, navigation stack setup. Okay, you can just take that. Okay, that actually showing what is inside the navigation stack and how the navigation stack works. Okay, so after discussing this, I will show you a simulation demo. using Turtle Sim and MAR robot. So you will get more idea about it. Okay. And also I will answer your questions as well. Okay. So if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box. Okay. So this is actually how the navigation stack in ROS looks like. I'm not sure you you understand what is navigation stack, but I can explain it very easily. Okay. So basically, in order to go from A to B, okay, A to B, it's not simple as looks like. Okay, for human, it's very easy. It's very easy, right? Oh, it seems like there is no audio. Am I audible, guys? Am I audible? Okay, okay. So Deepak, can you check? Okay, I think there is a problem with Deepak. Yeah. So if you can't hear or something, you can just put it in the chat box. Okay. Yes. So I can easily explain what is navigation stack and how we can configure it. Okay. And I can also show you an example that we can follow. Okay. There are many examples, by the way. Turtleboard tree. Oh, sorry. Manual Turtleboard tree. Okay. Or you can use the Turtleboard tree GitHub. Yes. So these are the two examples that we can use in order to learn or understand the navigation stack, how to set up the navigation stack and all. Okay. I can just send these links to you, but don't refer this now. I will explain. Okay. I'm just sending it. Okay. Then I'm also sending some other links. Okay. Okay, so these things will be useful. Okay, but let me start explaining from here. Okay, so the ROS navigation stack is a set of packages that you can see here on the top, like these set of packages. All these things are packages in independent packages, and these are combining all these packages. We are calling it as navigation stack. Okay. And what is navigation stack ultimately? Okay, so from A to B, for doing A to B, for executing or like moving from A to B for robot, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task like human beings, right? Because one of the common challenge if we move from A to B is obstacles, right? Obviously, obstacles are there, and we have to find a way to avoid obstacle. Okay, and then reroute. For example, if a car approach to us, then what will we do? Like we will reroute our plan, right? We will like move away from the car, right? But robot doesn't have any idea how to move, or if there is an obstacle comes, where it should go. Okay, so we have to find a way to avoid the obstacle, which is one of the important part. Then mostly, like if you go from A to B, we humans, we will use the Google Maps, right? Mostly we will use Google Maps. So we need a map basically, right? In order to navigate, we will use Google Map, and Google Map basically sending or like showing the shortest, mostly shortest path, right? Shortest path. Okay. For in the case of robots, the robot also find a shortest path from A to B, right? Makes sense, right? So we humans find a shortest path, also robot should find a shortest path, right? So there should be some mechanism to find the shortest path, okay? And yeah, so and the robot need a map, then robot need to find some algorithms to find the shortest path, okay? And then it should move through that path, right? Like in humans, like what we are using is a mobile phone with GPS. Okay, so GPS is like a global positioning system, right? So the mobile phone is receiving the GPS coordinate, and like we are moving through that path that Google actually showing in the map, right? So like that, the robot should also like move through the path it planned from A to B, right? But there is a problem. Like for us, we will use Google Maps mostly in outdoor, right? Like if we are moving from, I mean, if we are using a car, we will start the Google Map and we will go from A to B. So what about an indoor robot? Indoor robot. Okay. If we are creating an indoor robot, what will we do? I mean, there is no GPS. I mean, mostly like if we are using GPS indoor, we will not get the accurate, estimate of the GPS. There will be like a 5-meter difference. Okay. But 5-meter difference may be okay for us, but for robot, it's not like that. Right. So the thing is that we should find a way to create a local map, or we have to map the indoor space somehow, okay, then navigate in that map. Okay, yeah, so as per the comment, like I give a map of the indoor room environment. Yes, correct. Like if we have a map, like indoor environment map, then only robot can move based on that, right? Like for humans and robot, we need a reference, and that reference is a map. Okay, so so what are the prerequisites for the navigation? Like there should be a map. Okay, like if it is an outdoor robot, maybe we can use an outdoor map. Maybe we can use even GPS. But if it is an indoor robot, mostly we have to like create an indoor map. Okay, and we have to find a way to localize or position on the map as well. Okay, so we need a map, we need some algorithm to position the robot in the map. Okay, then we need some algorithms to plan a shortest path from A to B. Okay, then we need some mechanism to avoid obstacles. Okay, then imagine if we are stuck. Okay, if you're stuck, I heard some news like when Apple introduced Apple Maps or something, some guys are like end up in a beach or something. I mean, the map actually shown a wrong route, and they went to a beach instead of going to somewhere else. So if we are stuck, okay, if we imagine we are following Google Maps, and if we are stuck, there should be some recovery mechanism, right? There should be some recovery mechanism. So that is applicable for robots as well, right? So that is called the recovery behavior. Okay, so if the robot is stuck in somewhere, it should start some methods to escape from that recovery. Okay, so all these things are inside the navigation stack. Okay, so what is navigation stack? I will say navigation stack is actually a single program. Okay, it's actually a single program called MoveBase. You can see the name. This rectangle, okay, this rectangle actually represent a program called MoveBase. Okay, the name of the program is called MoveBase, and MoveBase is the main program in navigation stack. Okay, so what MoveBase does is that MoveBase is actually like a pluggable, pluggable like program, so that we can plug in a lot of stuff into MoveBase and we can release it. You have heard about the plugins, right? Plugins in software, like using plugins, we can add an extra feature or extra capability in the software, in your software. Okay, like that, MoveBase is simply an application or a program in which we can plug different plugins to it. Okay, so the ellipse here, these things represent the plugins. Okay, so inside the move base node, okay, we can plug global planner. Okay, global planner means the planner which is giving the shortest path from A to B, which is the global planner. Okay, which is a plugin. Then what is local planner? The local planner is actually executing a segment of global planner. Okay, a segment of the global planner. Okay, this is also take care of avoiding obstacles and all. Okay, then other things are like global cost map. Okay, we have the map, right? Indoor map. So global cost map is actually reading this map that we are giving, and actually giving some thresholding. Like imagine if this is a wall in the actual map, the global cost map will add some more some tolerance to the uh, actual wall. Okay, a tolerance or like inflation, that is a word that we are using. So what is the advantage of adding some inflation to the actual obstacle? The use is that it will not hit the actual wall, but if the robot actually reaches in this inflation area, then the robot will detect as an obstacle. Okay, then it will not hit the actual wall. Okay, so the global cost map is actually adding this inflation and all to the map that we are giving. Okay, that is for safety. Okay, then the local cost map here is actually a section of the global cost map. Okay, a section that we can define that is around the robot. Okay, which is taking care of the obstacles and yeah. Okay, so if the robot is stuck in somewhere, okay, if the robot is stuck somewhere, for example, it hit an obstacle, imagine somehow, or it actually trapped in a inflation, some corners or something, then it will trigger another plugin called recovery behavior. Okay, recovery behavior. Basically, like recovery behavior, like a simple recovery behavior is rotating 360 degrees. So in the video you have seen, right, a guy is actually hitting the robot with a bat or something. Then the robot actually stuck there. Just stopped, and then it started rotating. Okay, it's actually a behavior triggered in order to escape from some events. Okay, so when the robot initiate the rotate recovery behavior, okay, then there is a chance to escape. Okay, if the robot doesn't escape from the scene, then it will abort the existing goal. Okay, like if I'm giving a goal to robot, okay, goal position, then the robot is moving and somehow the robot is stuck. Okay, somehow the robot is stuck. Then robot is trying to recover from that. Okay, then if the recovery is not successful, then the robot will abort the goal and waiting for the next goal. Okay, so that's how it's work. And so yes, so we have seen the local planner, right? Local planner is actually executing a segment of the global planner, and the local planner is the guy who is sending the necessary speed commands to the robots. The robot should move, right? So the robot should move. So the navigation stack, like imagine in case of a wheeled robot, differential drive robots, the local planner is actually sending the linear and angular velocity to the robot. Okay, so it's actually the local planner is sending the velocity, and based on that linear and angular velocity, the robot is actually moving. Okay, so the flow is like this. We are giving a goal position, then the move base. Okay, move base is receiving the goal position. Then the global planner is planning a shortest path from the current robot pose, okay, current location to the goal position. Okay, then the local planner is trying to execute a segment of that. Okay, so this planner is taking care of the map actually. Okay, the planning is happening based on the map. Okay, the map we already given here. Okay. And based on the map, it is planning. Okay. Then the local planner will execute, and local planner is also responsible for the obstacle detection. Okay. So imagine like we have given a map, and we have talked about the planner and everything, right? So how to detect the obstacle actually? There should be some sensors, right? There should be some sensors, obviously. So the main sensory data that navigation stack receive or accept is, in order to detect the obstacle, the navigation stack is expecting a laser scan data or a point cloud data, or both. Okay, so mainly the laser scan data is what it is expecting. Okay, then that is actually giving to the global course map and local course map. Okay, so based on that, the robot can identify the obstacle around it. Okay, for example, if we are feeding the laser scan to the navigation stack, it can create an obstacle layer on the map. Okay, it can mark an obstacle on the map. Okay, then robot can avoid that obstacle. Okay, so the important stuff that we need to give into the ROS navigation stack is the sensory data that is from the laser scan or point cloud. Okay, so you have to put a laser scan on the robot. Okay, or a depth cam or something. Then you have to provide a map. Then you have to give the odometry data of the robot. So I'm not sure you heard about the word odometry. Odometry is like the data, the position data with respect to the starting position of the robot. Imagine we started the robot from here, okay, from here. That odometry is a relative position from here to the current position. Okay, so this odometry is computing based on encoders. There is a sensor called wheel encoders. So it's actually computing based on that. Okay, so odometry is required, laser scan is required, then map is required, then the transform of the robot, like the wheels, where are the wheels, where is the sensor location with respect to a fixed frame in the robot. Okay, so all these things, if we combine all these things, we can accomplish a bigger task, that is going from A to B. So just imagine how complex it is. In order to move from A to B, the ROS navigation stack is having this much of things. Okay, so I think you got a basic understanding of ROS navigation stack, right? Basic understanding. This is actually like a program in which we can plug all this stuff. Okay, so in order to set up or configure ROS navigation stack, you can just configure the parameters of these plugins. That's it. Okay, you can change the plugin. Okay, if you want to use a new planner, you can use that. You can write your own plugin. You can write, I mean, everything is like user defined. Okay, you can decide which plugin you have to use and which sensor you have to use. Everything you can decide. Okay, so one of the example for for learning ROS navigation stack is one is MIR and Turtleboard. Okay, so you can see a MIR navigation package. Okay, so in that you can see a folder called config. So here, these are the parameters of the navigation stack. For example, if you want to fine tune maybe the global planner of the robot. Okay, here they are using multiple global planner. You can just switch according to your requirement. So I'm just taking a global planner, there is a global planner called SPPL. So here, if I'm seeing some parameters. Okay, so you can fine tune it. And there are some parameters for the local planner. Okay, so one of the local planner is TEB. Okay, TEB local planner. So you can see the parameters. Okay, so the difficulty of working with navigation stack is not in the coding, but in fine tuning this. Okay, so if you already know ROS navigation stack, just search for ROS navigation stack fine tuning. So you will get a PDF, which is very useful. This is the navigation stack tuning guide. Okay, so if you start working with navigation stack in future, I think this tuning guide will be very useful. Oh, I just sent it privately. Sorry for that. Just a sec. Yeah. Okay. So you can see that PDF, right? So this is one of the simplest document that you can get from web to fine tune these tons of parameters. Okay, parameter fine tuning is not easy. It requires some experience. Okay, there are many parameters like move base parameters, some of the parameters from the move base node, then course map parameters, parameters of the global course map. Okay, so you have to fine tune all this. Okay, so you can find the documentation of all these from ROS Wiki. For example, if you want to see the parameters of MoveBase, you can just click here and you can see the parameters from MoveBase. Like these are the parameters. You can see the parameters, ROS parameters. Okay, you can put in the MoveBase parameters, you can give the global planner, local planner, recovery behavior, all those stuff. Okay, so can just do that. Okay, so it's not a simple topic. It need a lot of learning. Okay, it will take some time to learn all this stuff, but I'm trying to give an abstract of what is ROS navigation stack. Okay, and how can we start with it. Okay, and there are some books of mine that also are helpful, like the latest book, Mastering ROS for Robotics Programming, 3rd edition, which is actually explaining it in detail. Yeah, so let me just switch into some navigation demos then. Okay, so in the meantime, you can just ask question. Okay, after the demo, I can reply with your comments. Okay, so so let me start from the maybe Turtlebot. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. This is not a very simple topic. Okay, but you can ask. You can just unmute your mic and ask. That will be good for me. Let me know if you have any questions. So I'm just starting some demos of navigation stack. I'm starting with Turtlebot 3, which is an educational robot. Okay. Yeah. So one of the questions, can we do autonomous navigation using simple RGB camera? Okay, so it's a good question. So the thing is that there are options to do the navigation using RGB camera. Okay, but not using navigation stack. Okay, there are a thing called I think the navigation stack in ROS is expecting laser scan or point cloud data. Okay, but you can implement the autonomous navigation using a different framework. Okay, different. There may be some packages in ROS to do that, but not with the ROS navigation stack. Okay, but that is actually possible. Yeah.
Also, sir, I have right now Pluto X Pluto 1.2. Also, I have installed the package for that for camera calibration and for its command. I am trying to do SLAM using monoclonal SLAM.
Yeah.
But I'm stuck there also. But after getting the map, so what will you suggest for autonomous navigation? Like what package?
Yeah. So did you check the ORB SLAM?
Yes. I checked. I have checked.
Yeah.
But I guess I stuck between the topic name, I guess.
Okay.
But I'm working on it.
Okay. So ORB SLAM is actually good. I mean, I'm not saying a perfect or accurate thing, but we can use the monocular cam to do the mapping. Okay, but using that or RTAB, did you try RTAB?
No, sir.
RTAB, I think RTAB is also like a visual SLAM technique that you can use. Yeah, but for the ROS navigation stack, I think we should need a map, a 2D map, and these sensors to navigate. Okay, but if you don't have, I mean, if you are not planning to work with navigation stack, I think then there are some other things like Hector mapping, but it may need laser scan, I guess. Yeah, it may need. I think the ORB or RTAB, then there is one more thing that I worked. These will be helpful, but I'm not sure about the accuracy of the navigation. I'm not sure it is accurate, but working with navigation stack will be accurate. But I mean, are you planning to connect any laser or something into the robot?
Not yet, sir, but if possible, I will attach. Since it is the drone, so the weight also we need to take in consideration.
Yeah. So in that case, I think there is a monocular SLAM from Technical University of Munich. So there are many maybe I can. It's actually an old package. You can search for TUM ROS. It's for Parrot drone, I think. Maybe I can share. You can try that. It's actually using the monocular cam. I think that will be helpful. So there are many packages for doing, but the accuracy is one issue. But you can try. I mean, you can just iterate some of the packages like this, okay, and then I think you can choose one from that. Okay. Yeah.
Also, sir, since we are talking about navigation,
Yeah.
to calibrate this with a real robot, like in simulation, we can easily do the navigation. But to do in real robot, the how should be the like how we can connect the nodes to the like real robot actuator. Like,
yeah, so in case of navigation stack, if you are using navigation stack, the only thing is like if you can provide these topics like ODOM, then TF, then the map, then the sensors, then that is actually fine for working with navigation stack. But if you want to compute the odometry, you should use the encoder data, or like laser odom or visual odometry to get the odometry. Okay, so that is actually like when we work with real robot, you have to calculate the odometry value. That is one of the important part. After getting the odometry, and if you connect a laser scan, I think it's ready to go. There is not much work involved. Okay, so but in order to read from encoder, maybe you have to connect an Arduino board into the robot. Okay, so you can count the number of ticks from the encoder, then you can compute the odometry data, then you can send into ROS navigation stack. So there are some work involved, but I think I have sent the Turtleboard 3 and MIR robot, right? So I think the Turtleboard 3 is one of the reference that you can take how to proceed. And also there are many other reference. This is from one of my course actually. This is actually mentioned in my book as well. So I'm actually running a course in ROS called ROS Developer Learning Path. So this is one of the project that one of my team member done, and this is already included in my book, latest book. So I think this will be a good reference for you to start with navigation stack, simulation, and then how to put it in the actual hardware. I mean, how to integrate everything. And also the Linobot, which is again one of my friend. So he's like he's having I mean, this project is very popular, and he also ported into ROS 2. So yeah, so these are the two projects that you can refer. Okay. Yes.
Okay, sir. Can you tell about the TF? What is the
Yeah.
significance
So
of?
TF is actually the transformation. Transformation means like uh, so if you take a robot, there is wheels, then there are sensors, right? So sensors may be mounted on the robot. So the TF is the transform from the base of the robot. So like from the base of the robot, what is the distance of the wheel? What is the orientation of the wheel? What is the height of the LiDAR mounted? All this stuff. Okay, so that is actually TF, and the TF can be published by ourselves or using based on a robot model called URDF. Okay, in ROS, there is a thing called URDF. So you can use that also for publishing the transformation. It's also like, it's not very difficult.
Okay, sir. Clear.
Okay, so yeah, so that's the thing. Yeah, so these projects will be helpful to start working on some real robots. Okay, so what I'm showing here is a simulation of a robot called Turtlebot 3. Okay, so if you give a goal position like this, the robot is planning a path. Okay, so this is happening not only in the simulation, you can implement the same in the actual hardware. Okay. Yes. So I'm taking one more question, like which ROS is more suitable in industrial deployment, ROS 1 and ROS 2? Yeah, again, a valid or relevant question. So ROS 1 currently it's very stable. ROS 2 is actually product ready. Okay. But ROS 2, I will not say it is as much as stable as ROS 1. So it's actually a bit difficult choice actually, and it will be based on your application as well. Like if you are planning to do some navigation or something, there is a navigation 2. Okay, navigation 2 for ROS 2. So that is actually I mean, I will say it's much better. Okay, it's still in development, but it's in a good position. So you can rely on this now to stack, and you can develop. But if you are planning to like explore the entire possibility of ROS, like if you want to explore all the packages of ROS, then ROS 2 will not be an option, because ROS 2, I mean, the packages are still porting from ROS 1 to ROS 2. Okay, so it's actually a bit difficult decision. Okay, and it will depend on the applications that you are going to do. Okay, but for as a design, as per the design, I will say ROS 2 is for the product. Okay, ROS 1 is mainly for research, but it can be used for product with a lot of fine tuning. Okay. Yeah, so we are running out of time now. So yes. So have you worked on unmanned surface robot boats? I have very little experience working in the simulation. I have, yeah, there are some ROS stack available to work with boats. Okay, surface boats. Yeah. Then you know about omnidirectional robot with navigation stack. Yes, yes, omnidirectional. That is actually, you can refer the Lino robot project that I have done. I have given. It is having omnidirectional robot as well. Okay. Then what is the difference between TF message and odometry message? Okay, so the odometry is actually publishing the current robot position. Okay, TF is actually the transform. Okay, TF is the transform. Transform means if you search about the transform, like what is the position? I mean, position and orientation of a link of the robot with respect to one axis. I mean, one fixed frame. So it's all about the frame. Like there will be a wheel frame, there will be a sensor frame, right? So I think it will take some time to digest all this stuff. Okay, it will be better to start with ROS, then only you can understand, because we have a lot of limitation here. in this talk. So that's what, this is a very, very big topic. Okay. Then yeah, I'm taking, sorry guys, I think if you have doubts, further doubts, you can post it in WhatsApp. Okay. So I'm taking one more question because of the lack of time. We have to wind it up. I'm planning on making my own robot on ROS robot and applying navigation stack. Is there any reference design my robot mechanic? Yeah, that's what the links that I have given. Okay, that's actually very useful. The Lino board, diff board, and everything. Okay, so this is ROS navigation stack. We can give a goal position, and the robot is actually moving in the simulation actually. Okay, what we are seeing here is a visualization. Okay, visualization of map and everything. So here the simulated robot is moving, and if we have a real robot, it will move like that. Okay, so I'm just want to end up the session because of the time constraint. Yeah, so if you are interested to work with this kind of project, let me know. Like, so after the session, there will be you will get a link in WhatsApp and on the Zoom. This is the latest course. It's a live course that I am starting next week. Okay, it's actually a 1-year course, but you can do based on your preference. It's I'm also recording it, so you can do it as a self-paced mode. Okay. And these are the things that I am planning in my course, like building real robots using ROS, then planning to give some internship after the course on these companies, like if you're doing the course well. Yeah, so these are the updates from my side. I'm also giving the course links if you're interested. And I can post it in WhatsApp as well. So this is my blog. And let me share the course. So I'm taking another question. So it will be great if I can get the contact information, which can contact. Yeah. So yes. So let me share this link. And in order to connect with me, I think it will be better to use LinkedIn. I can share the LinkedIn profile. So I think it will be better to connect in LinkedIn. I will be available online. Okay, this is my LinkedIn profile. Yes, so maybe I can support if I get some time, free time, mostly at night. I will get some time. So one more question: what would you suggest on introducing machine learning if you have any sample code? So there are many packages available in ROS to introduce machine learning and reinforcement learning. So just search for RL ROS. I think you will get the OpenAI ROS packages, which can be used for reinforcement learning. Okay. Yes. Regarding the slide, yeah, I can send. Okay. Yes. So I think that's it, guys. Sorry for like fastening everything because we don't have enough time. We planned 8:30 actually Indian time, but it's 9 o'clock now. Sorry for that. Actually, this is a very, very big topic. Okay. So I think you got something from the workshop, at least some idea about the navigation stack. Okay. So for further, I mean, if you want to proceed with ROS or navigation stack, let me know in LinkedIn, or yeah, I think, or if you are interested in working with me, you can plan to do the course. Okay, I already done. I completed one course, and this is my second batch. Okay, yes, that's it, guys. Thank you for attending.